Welcome to HIPE Leadership Podcast. I'm Lindsey Curry, and this is my co-host, David Curry, and welcome to our first podcast. We have been entrepreneurs for the last 14 years, growing a final expense agency that now produces over $12 million a year. But our true passion lies in growing and developing people. We have 3 kids, and yes, we are husband and wife team that works together, and it can be a challenge at times. But we love adding value to people's lives, and this podcast is all about you. The quote of the day today that we're going to focus on, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And I love this quote, and we will dive into that momentarily. But before we do that, let's start from a little bit about the beginning and a little bit about how HIPE formed. And David, how did we end up here?
Yeah, that's a good question, babe. Yeah, we're excited to be here. This has been a long journey. So like Lindsay said, I'm David Curry. I was born 1985, 7 a.m., February 26th. I thought I would just break the ice up for you a little bit there. We are not going to go that far back. We are going to talk about when our journey here in business together started. And that was in 2014. So Lindsay and I were both kind of entrepreneurs. I was a golf professional trying to make my way, and she was running a boutique trying to do her thing. And we had to figure out a different path. Figure out how to pay the bills, how to make more money and spend less time doing it. So it's been a long journey since we started in the insurance industry. So when I thought about where this all began, it's funny that it took me back to one of our early mentors. And I remember, so we were hot and heavy, and it was me and Lindsay and another business partner of ours that's been my best friend since 4 years old. So we've always considered ourselves this triangle, and we were always banging the doors down of the guys that are sitting in the seats that we were wanting to get to. And we're like, man, what's the secret? What's the play? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? There's got to be something. Who do I call? How do I start? How do I go to where you're at? And every time we would ask him this question, every time we would get around these guys, it was, you just got to grow yourself. Just grow yourself. Just grow yourself. And, I was an athlete, and I never prided myself on my academic record. So by growing myself or ourselves, he meant dive into some books and start picking up and growing your mindset, growing your ability to be bigger so you can pour more out. What we've learned is if we don't have it, we don't have anything to pour out. And at that time, it just that did not resonate. We were not mature enough to understand that if we grow ourselves, eventually we will attract others, we will be able to add value to other people, and we'll be able to pour out into these people that we're searching for to grow our business with. So that was it. That was it. We picked up these books, and to today's quote or theme of if it's meant to be, it's up to me. Extreme Ownership was one of those books that really set that foundation in place for us. Of this deal's on our shoulders, and if we're not driving that bus forward, it's probably not going to go where we want it to go, or it's probably not going to ever go anywhere. So that was it, and it's been such a long journey since then, right? But it all started with just picking up a book, which was a very different thought for where I was at that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, David, I think back to, our mentor that had encouraged us as far as picking up books and reading, and you will eventually start attracting those people. And it placed in 2018, we were actually at the 8% Nation conference. It was actually their first conference. And I'll never forget Coach Burt. He is a world-renowned speaker, business coach. He's won several national titles as a coach in basketball. And I was thinking, he was up on stage at this conference and he said, everyone needs a coach. And it was like a light bulb went off. It was like ding, ding, ding. Because at that point in our career, we had been in the final expense space for 3 years, selling, growing an agency. And at that point, I turned to David and I said, that's what we need. Do you remember this? We need a coach. And
I do remember that. I wasn't as quick to jump into the idea of taking on a coach, but yeah, it makes sense, right? Like we've both been athletes, and I remember the thought process of all these professional athletes that have taken themselves to the highest level in their industry. They've got a mentor, they've got a coach, they've got somebody holding them accountable and pushing them and challenging what they may see. And so as an athlete, that just made sense.
Absolutely. And I was actually a former University of Louisville Ladybird, go Cards, 2-time national champion. So when Coach Burt said that, I'm like, he's right. I've always had a coach growing up, dancing. I've always had a coach or a mentor or someone that has held me accountable along the way. And so, fast forward the next month, we were at the Christmas party within our business. And at that time, we were leading about a team of 15 agents. And we had been selling a lot. And I thought to myself, we're gonna place number one at this Christmas party. I knew by our numbers, our production, we were tracking. Our numbers were superseding the other teams within the groups. And as anyone that's listening to this call right now or listening to this podcast ever thought, I know I'm going to be in first place, and then you get second place? Anyone? I know, show of hands, anyone? And at that point, we took second place, and I guess I didn't have a very good poker face because it was kind of written all over my face that I assumed we were getting first, and we came in second. And there was just one conversation that took place that evening that changed the trajectory of our leadership game. It really was. It was one conversation, and it was a gentleman at the Christmas party, a professor from WKU who specializes in the DISC language. And he approached me at that time, and he said, you should have been number one. Your team should have been number one. And I said, I know, we should have been number one. I mean, he knew how to get right on my street. He knew what I was thinking. And I replied, I know. And he said, I can help you get there. And that's all I needed to hear. I can help you get there. And so, when I think about this podcast, and yes, it's our first one, and I think about those things, he is one, just one conversation can help change the trajectory of where you're wanting to go in business. And it's just one little swivel to the right versus the left that really helps you get traction in business.